Coming up on the program, Labor Defence spokesman David Feeney. First, though, to the Parliamentary Secretary to the Prime Minister, Josh Frydenberg. Josh, another very disturbing report from the Middle East is that violence and that the Islamic State continues its push across northern Iraq.
Well, reports of this beheading are a gruesome reminder, Kieran, of the atrocities that are being committed every day in Syria and Iraq, and the instability that is wreaking havoc on this part of the world. I think it's also a reminder to us here in Australia and to the international community more broadly that we have to redouble our efforts to take on ISIS, to ensure that it doesn't get a foothold in the Middle East, and to also ensure that Islamic extremism and jihadism doesn't extend to us here in Australia.
And the fact that this has, the Islamic State claim that that has taken place now, as shocking as this is, with an American journalist now reportedly, and as I say, claimed by Islamic State, it's not that surprising given the other images that we've seen from that region in recent days.
Oh, the other beheadings are absolutely gruesome, and it just shows you that these people can't be reasoned with. These are ideological extremists, and they only understand brute force. They don't have any appreciation for the norms of society, of civil society, and of the rule of law. And when you are dealing with an adversary like that, Kieran, the only thing you can do is to use force in response. And we're hoping that the Iraqi government, together with some assistance that the Americans are providing from the air, can also put an end to the advance by ISIS.
And the thing with this conflict, Josh Frydenberg, which I suppose is so unusual, is that it's brought together some very unlikely interests. Syria and the US both bombing the Islamic State, and then you've got, of course, the United States and Iran, both opposed to this Sunni extremist group, the Islamic State.
Well, you put your finger on what is the big issue now in the Middle East, which is the Sunni-Shiite divide, and that's got on the one hand Saudi Arabia and Egypt, on the other hand Iran and its acolytes like Hezbollah in Lebanon, together with other organisations that are of a Shiite variety. So this is a big divide in the Middle East. Unfortunately, we're seeing enormous amounts of violence, and ISIS has shown itself capable of making some very rapid advances. So this is a big wake-up call to the rest of the world that we need to do something to stop ISIS in its tracks.
I want to change our focus now and look at Clive Palmer's comments. In fact, let's have a look at some of the reporting of those comments in China. This is the reporting in the Global Times. Australian mining mogul and politician Clive Palmer was rebuked by the government on Tuesday for a tirade against China in which he described its government as bastards who want to take over Australia's resources. This is from the China Daily. Australian mining magnate turned lawmaker Clive Palmer has been widely accused of threatening Australia's relationship with its biggest trading partner through an extraordinary tirade against China. And then the Xinhua news agency, in one of the letters, this is reporting letters to the Chinese embassy, as an Australian citizen, I would like to let you know that I'm outraged at the remarks by Clive Palmer regarding the Chinese people. Please be assured that the majority of Australians do not hold these opinions. So, while, obviously concerning comments from Mr Palmer and Jackie Lambie, in China to this point, the coverage has been rather sympathetic.
Well, it's completely unacceptable comments by Clive Palmer and also by Jackie Lambie. I mean, they're unacceptable if they were made by a normal citizen, and even accentuated in their importance, in effect, because they're being made by a member of Parliament, somebody with a lot of power in the Senate right now. China is a great friend of Australia. It's our #1 trading partner. More than 800,000 Australians have some form of Chinese ancestry. More than 700,000 Chinese come to Australia every year as a tourist, and we have more than 100,000 Chinese students studying at our universities. The relationship is extremely close. close. And we are also a good strategic partner, having recently conducted joint military exercises with the Chinese. So these sort of comments are completely out of step with the broader, strong relationship that the two nations share.
There's a bit of hypocrisy, isn't there, as well, with Clive Palmer a couple of years ago when he was courting Chinese business partners. Partners said that the Chinese deserve to be treated with dignity and the dignity they deserve, were the words.
Well, Clive Palmer changes his tune on most things from one day to another. He's clearly a man under a lot of pressure with his private court case and his dispute with his Chinese business partners, but that is not an issue which should contaminate the broader Australia-China relationship. And by making such public comments on national TV as he did the other night, I think are damaging, and it's good that the government has come out very strongly to rebuke those comments and to distance ourselves from it.
How would you characterise the comments from Jackie Lambie talking about the need to protect against a Chinese invasion?
Well, again, that's completely over the top. It doesn't stand to reason. I mean, China and Australia are cooperating in the military sphere, and comments like that are very inflammatory. They don't help a reasoned debate about strategic issues. So, you know, if I was Clive Palmer, I'd be sticking to building the Titanic rather than building battleships.
Well, this is the gentleman and, of course, his team that you've got to negotiate the budget with. That shows how difficult this task is at the moment, doesn't it? That you've got remaining tens of billions of dollars in savings that hang in the balance, and these are the individuals that you've got to sit at the table with.
Well, Kieran, you're absolutely right. We've got big issues to negotiate with Clive Palmer right now in terms of some of our budget reform measures that are being blocked in the Senate. So we're hoping that not only Clive Palmer, Jackie Lambie, but also the other independents will actually understand what the government is trying to do, which is to pay back over $300 billion worth of Labor's debt, but also to put in place real structural reform which will set Australia up for the future. One point that Matthias Cormann re-emphasised last night in a speech is that we just can't take our economic conditions at the moment for granted. Business as usual is not an option, and it's a real reality check for the Australian people to look at the escalating debt, to look at the legacy that was left to us by our political predecessors, and to say, well, hang on, we're now trying to clean up this mess, and that some of these measures will actually put Australia on the right path going forward.
Josh Frydenberg, appreciate your time. Thank you.
Thanks very much. Good to be with you.
A quick break, back in just a moment with Labor frontbencher David Feeney.